Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70 Millimeter Finally, a podcast about movies. Every Monday, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas.
No one has said that. Why are you even doing this again, Matt? No one said that.
And writer-poet Proto.
What kind of body horror has he lived through? That's what I want to know.
And together as friends and film lovers forever, we discuss recently watched movies. Later in this episode, we're discussing Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris from 1972. What is love? Enjoy. I'm going to do something we haven't done. I don't think we've done it before, but we're starting off with an announcement of what our next movie is.
Oh, my God.
Danny and I did some insider trading so that my pick would come sooner than it was originally scheduled. Next week is going to be Young Guns, starring Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland,
Kings.
Lou Diamond Phillips. And that's streaming for free on Prime with ads right now. So you can watch that on Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Proto, are you ready to go into the Wild West, one of the most popular movie settings in film history?
I'm ready. 1988. This is, what's great about this movie? This is right in the wheelhouse of me having no idea if I've seen it or not. We'll all find out when I start it. I have no idea. What, did they Photoshop Kiefer Sutherland onto the cover, onto the poster?
He's Photoshopped into the whole movie.
What is
They
this?
didn't have Photoshop back then.
What is this? MS Paint?
Old MS Paint job. So that's next week. You can watch that for free with Prime. I'm very excited. My brother had both of those VHS tapes on loop in the house. Loop job.
Dedicated TV just looping those two.
It was the Young Guns CRT in the basement, always playing. So we're very excited. Let's see. This episode, big episode, Solaris, is going to be our discussion at the bottom of the hour. This is Proto's pick. He went into the HBO Max archives and chose this one, Tarkovsky.
Went to the basement and I dug it up. Found the reel.
Who's the guy that did The Shining? What's that director's name?
Okay. All right.
A lot of people compare this to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they say it's a better film. It's in Russian.
Is that what they said?
That's what they're saying. I
No
was
one
doing
has said
I was
that.
doing some research
Why
earlier.
are you even doing this
Holy
again,
moly.
Matt? No one said that.
So we'll see. We're gonna get into it. It's subtitled, just throwing it out there. It's 3 hours long,
Stupid ass.
but this isn't going to be a 3-hour movie. Stay tuned. Part, did you watch anything this week?
I did watch a couple movies. What do I want to talk about? I think the one I want to talk about.
I'm sorry. I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to call out that Mikey P said Young Buns in
Oh.
Discord.
Mikey,
Hopefully that was
hot
worth
take.
the interruption, Proto. Sorry.
Mikey meant to search that into Google on accident. Typed it into Discord.
My what did I watch? Oh, so I continued on the Cronenberg body horror train. I don't know what to call it. A train made of human body parts. And I watched Dead Ringers. This is a movie that I had started a week or so ago after Slim logged it. This is the one that I wanted to watch. It's about two identical twin brothers who are both gynecologists who are paving the way of the field. They're making new strides in technology, coming up with new devices. But they have a problem where they are linked together on a emotional, psychological, sexual level unlike anything I've ever seen before.
They're like the twins from G.I. Joe almost.
Almost like that. And I was, man, I don't know how I gave it 3 stars. I don't know how I feel about some of like Cronenberg's movies. I was kind of bored with it for the most part, but I will say the ending is totally bonkers. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the screen. I don't know if you felt that way, Slim. But it kind of made up for the slowness. Like the ending, I feel like is worth it.
There's a lot of hot sex scenes in this movie too. Sweaty Jeremy Irons and that the one female actress, the actress.
She has a name.
She was an actress playing an actress, and they were hot for each other in that movie. I love the I was just looking at my review. I love the architecture of the movie. I thought his like office was so well designed. Every building they were in, the architecture was fantastic. The design of the movie I loved. Even their gowns when they were gynecologicing people, they were wearing like these red cloaks.
Yeah, they looked like they were like in a cult, but also like priests. He looked amazing. In the robes.
I thought he did great.
Yeah, and then the sets were incredible, but it was just, I don't know, it's a weird movie. I'm going to continue watching Cronenberg. I think I'm going to do The Brood next. I think I'm going to try to like go far, near the beginning and then like just work my way through his movies. So
he might be the weirdest dude ever. Maybe that ever lived.
Your last line of the review, you're like Cronenberg, definitely the weirdest dude ever.
Can you imagine like hanging out with David Cronenberg, just getting into deep conversations about certain things, like just like around a campfire? It's got to be just the weirdest stuff possible.
He'd probably like slap on medical gloves and ask you to lean back mid-combo.
And most people probably would. David Cronenberg gave me a medical exam. That's the story you can tell to your kids.
What kind of body horror has he lived through? That's what I want to know.
Oh, God. Forrest in chat is wondering if this is a congressional hearing. My Two Gynos. That is a good name for a sitcom. Danny, did you watch anything this week?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to continue on the Halloween train this week. And so I went and I watched Halloween 2 for the first time because I had watched 1 last year for the first time. I didn't keep going because I wanted to watch other Halloween horror movies, but I watched Halloween 2, which is good. I liked it. It's okay. I like that it picked up right after Halloween 1, literally still continuing the night of, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then dear friend and producer Dale talked me into watching Halloween H2O 20 years later. And I had a lot of fun with that movie. I know you didn't like it as much, Matt, but it was fun. I thought it was cool.
Would you give that 5 stars?
No,
a 5-banger?
No. It's 4 stars. 4 stars, Matt, please. And then I kept going because fellow villager Tim O'Theef told me to watch the 2018 Halloween movie, and I gave that 4.5 stars, and that was an excellent movie. That was a lot of fun.
I couldn't believe the rating that I saw you drop on that Halloween movie.
It was fun. I don't know why. I read your review and you were just S-ing all over it. You gave it like a 1-star review, but still somehow gave it 3 stars.
That is true. I agree, Danny.
Yeah, that was a scathing review for 3 stars.
I just pointed out the negatives. Listen, everyone knows how I feel about kid gore. Not into it.
Should have stayed in the damn truck.
You don't need a slow strangulation of that kid in the car. The poor little child getting strangled by the shape.
I'm starting to come around on kid gore. I do love that scene when they pull up and it kind of mirrors the first movie where they're walking around in the dark in the gowns. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I love it.
I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, the trailer
they just
for
dropped
the next
the teaser trailer. Comes out next year, though, next October. So it's looking a long way to go.
And then I watched, Haunted Mansion, gave that 1 star because it sucked.
Trash.
And then today I watched 2002's Solaris to be ready for tonight. So,
Excuse me.
talk about that later.
George Clooney.
You can add
American
that
icon.
to you can add that to your man ass list, Matt.
Oh,
Yes.
There's a lot of Clooney ass in that.
Find the link to the official man-ass letterbox list that I've created. We're slowly making additions. Really, it's not really rated, but I don't think there's any better man-ass than Kyle MacLachlan's stunt double in strip showgirls. So it's just that and the rest. So if you want to see a real taut, blossoming rear, by all means watch Showgirls.
I need to see this to see what blossoming means.
I'm going to have to screenshot it for you.
Okay.
I'll make a GIF of the blossoming one in what was that movie? The Disaster Artist. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Proto, did you want to talk about your experience watching Amelie for the first time? I know that review was very intense.
Oh, was it? What did I say?
I didn't see this review. Excuse me.
This snuck under the radar.
Excuse me.
Let me read it verbatim.
Wait, tell me the stars before you read this review.
Let me read it verbatim.
Tell me the stars.
Read it verbatim.
Either you will connect with this immediately or it will feel kooky. I felt this on a primal depth in my loins. 5 stars.
To me, this type of movie, it's kind of like it'll divide people in the way that I think like Wes Anderson divides people. Like either you get it and you love it, or you think this guy is like a joke and pretentious. I happen to love it. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I think it's gorgeous. It's very colorful. But it's like a choice by the director. I love that part of it. It's like slice of life, like these little vignette stories that I found very funny. Like the humor is like perfectly in my wheelhouse. I love this type of humor. And it was just so sweet and fun. I mean, it's just perfect to me. I love it.
Gosh.
Another 5 banger.
My goodness.
Just as equally important, Casey in Discord is saying she watched Halloween for the very first time tonight.
She did. We watched it tonight.
Did she give it a rating?
No, probably not. I'm going to guess 4 stars. 3 stars. 3.5 stars.
Okay.
4 stars.
We mentioned the Discord. You can join our Discord by hopping onto our 70mm Patreon. Thanks to Django Boots and Tara for joining the Discord this week. You get early access to episode. You get a physical membership card that Danny has designed. It's probably the best membership card out today about a retro video store that doesn't exist.
That was actually confirmed today that it is the best out there.
That came through?
Yeah, that came through.
Yeah, we got through the wire. Facts came through.
And you get early access. You get bonus episodes. You get exclusive Patreon-only episodes. The most recent one coming up on the pipeline is Twilight. That is confirmed to be the next Patreon-exclusive episode. We're recording that next week. November 4th. November 5th, I'm sorry, is the date. So patrons, get ready. This week's winner for, we mentioned Letterboxd. And if you share the show on social media, spread the word, you can get a free year of Letterboxd Pro. You get access to lifetime stats, no ads, your own easily sortable watch list to see where movies are streaming on your favorite services. And this week's winner is a vicious koala on Twitter. Free year of Letterboxd Pro.
Congrats.
Right. Do I want to talk about a movie before we get into Solaris?
Let me look at your list.
You were like getting ornery that I was
uh,
looking at your Letterboxd page earlier. Then I called out that you only had 10 movies in your watch list.
Yeah.
Proto and I, betwn us, have like 500
why
movies
there's
on a
only
watch
10.
list.
Listen, I don't know why.
Can you figure this out?
No, I don't want to.
Watched a bunch of movies this week. Many were disappointing. I watched... I guess I'll give a recommendation for a movie. I watched Resolution, which is on Prime, Crackle, Tubi, and a bunch more. This is from these 2 directors, Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, that I kind of categorize some of their movies as lo-fi sci-fi. You know, kind of like slow burn dramas that have some sci-fi elements or horror elements. They did The Endless, which I liked. They have a new one coming out called Synchronic. They have Spring, which is on my watch list. So this Resolution one is about this guy who tracks down like a former best friend of his who's squatting somewhere, and he's an addict. So he locks him up and is like, I'm going to stay with you for a week to help you kick this habit finally. And some weird stuff starts happening in this cabin, and that's all you need to know. So I enjoyed it greatly, and I'm going on to the next one, which is Spring. That's my recommendation for this week. Forrest says, thought lo-fi sci-fi was just another new genre of music I'm too old to appreciate. Could be.
Slim, how about your 2 1-stars for Freddy vs. Jason and Jason X?
Just shit movies. Just terrible. Freddy vs. Jason is one of the worst movies I've seen this year. I want all copies of that movie burned.
Oh my.
Jason X was terrible. I see a few 4-star reviews of that movie, both of those, and I want those people checked out, to be honest.
Let me see if I have any.
I want them checked out.
Checked in. Some kind of institution.
Maybe see Jeremy Irons from Dead Ringers. Have him waltz in that red gown.
I think we'd be remiss not to mention a movie that's buzzing across the internets right now is the new Borat. Because we both watched that. You, Slim, your review, you didn't really say much about it other than like it made you laugh. But what did you think in comparison to the first one?
I liked how they played off the fact that Borat and he are very popular now. And like the character can't really walk through America without being stopped. I think it's like next to impossible for him to make these kinds of movies anymore. So I think I saw some negative reviews that kind of thought that like it was too fake and like more scripted and stuff, which I don't know. It's what's got to happen now. I'm kind of fine with it. But I laughed a lot. Wasn't as good as the first one, but I liked it a lot. Yeah, I know you didn't. You only gave it like a 2-star or something.
Yeah, right? I watched both of them for the first time, and I liked the first one. I think it feels more authentic, I guess, and I maybe just watching them back to back like that. The second one, it didn't feel like it didn't have that documentary feel that the first one has. It feels more almost like a movie, like they're fake making a documentary. Yeah, that was, and it kind of put me off to the whole thing. And I just didn't think it was as funny. I thought the first one was much funnier. And that might have been because it's like the first time I saw the character like doing all this, stuff. But they're fun.
I like his Borat stuff. I haven't seen much of his Ali G. I don't think I liked Dictator, or maybe I didn't even finish it. Wasn't he in that Steven Spielberg, like Zemeckis CGI movie too? Was the conductor or something? Sounds like something Danny liked.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like the thing about the humor of Borat is like I've heard Sacha Baron Cohen like talk outside of it, and he's like a really bright guy. But the Borat humor is just like it's all like just crass and like crude jokes, and none of it's like that smart. Which like
you don't think so?
Not really. I mean, it's smart in the way that he plays with people, but like to me, like the jokes themselves aren't very like smart.
Too lowbrow for you.
It's a little lowbrow.
Interesting. I don't agree with it.
Yeah, he's in Hugo. It's called Hugo, Matt.
Hugo. Yeah, that thing trash. Yeah, get it out of here. That's a Jason X.
He's in Les Mis too, which always takes me out of it. Seeing him in Les Mis.
Danny, did you watch the Borats?
No, I mean I've seen the first one. I don't know if I'll get around the second one.
You're against it.
It's just
You're against
so much
humor.
I'm against trying to make the politics funny right now. So I'll wait on it. I think
it's time.
Ooh, snuck
it's
up on
time
us
right now. Solaris.
It's a good show. Thanks, guys.
Has snuck up on us. People are probably at the polling station right now, listening to this, voting for Joe Biden. Proto, are you ready to walk us through science fiction, what's been called better than 2001: A Space Odyssey, better than Kubrick? Solaris, please.
How do you do this?
Psychologist Chris Kelvin is sent to a space station to investigate strange reports coming from the crew. The station is orbiting the planet Solaris, which is covered in a swirling, bubbling ocean. Once there, Chris finds the station in disarray. with 2 crew members not cooperating and the third having committed suicide sometime before Kelvin arrived. Kelvin begins encountering the same phenomena that was reported from the other crewmates, where other people appear on the station. They have determined that Solaris somehow creates people from their memories and that they are real flesh and blood. For Kelvin, it is his late wife Hari who appears, carrying the memories and emotions that they had shared together. But is it truly his wife? What makes you, you? Is it our memories, consciousness, our bodies, our interactions with others? The impossible becomes real. The dead die and are resurrected. A life forgotten is found, all in the orbit of Solaris.
Oh, that's what this is about.
Just Danny finally understands the movie
I finally got it.
after
Thanks.
9 hours of sitting through it. Golly gee. So this is a long movie. It's on HBO Max right now. HBO Max, hit us up. We're here to support you any way we can.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably start by renaming your service just HBO, make it less confusing for people. But call us. So this is from Andrei Tarkovsky. This is my first Tarkovsky, but this isn't your first, right, Proto? You've seen at least one other of his?
Yeah, earlier in the year, I watched 2 of his movies. I watched one called Mirror, which I really liked. And then I watched another one, Stalker. I think both of them were made later than Solaris. I didn't like Stalker as much. There are some very similar elements to it as this movie, and we can get into those when they come up. But I felt prepared in that sense for what I was getting into with a Tarkovsky movie.
Last episode, the Fly episode, we tried something a little bit different. We're not probably going to run down through the entire plot of the movie, and instead go through some of our top, maybe not like top meaning favorite moments, but just some things that we wanted to kind of touch on. So I know Danny doesn't have a list. I think he has a blank piece of paper in front of him from his viewing, or he threw it out from his original list. But I do have some things I want to cover, and one of the first ones is the lead actor who plays Chris Kelvin. He looks like a Russian Han Solo when he first arrives on the ship. He looks like, I had to look up his name, Alden Ehrenreich, who's the guy who played Solo in that movie, Han Solo. Like, he is in like an alternate dimension Star Wars universe when he appears on this ship, right? It's amazing. Blew my mind.
Yeah, he does have a similar look to him.
How about his pants on that ship?
Oh my God.
Kidding me?
That outfit, what was going on? He's in, what do you even call it? Like, he's like in a fishnet shirt and he's got zippers around his crotchal area.
Yeah. He looked like he was going to a discotheque on that space station, and that was going to be his first stop. Proto, what about you? What's on your list for this movie?
I think that this is a good movie to do this with because watching this movie, you'll watch a scene and I'll try to like write down a note about it, but everything is so visual in this that it's hard to even talk about it. Like, my first note was just, there's so many ridiculous scenes in this movie. Like in terms of like where do you start it? How do you talk about it? Especially because there's scenes, first of all, like this is you call this science fiction, but other than maybe 3 or 4 scenes, you'd be hard pressed to know this is in space, right? Mm-hmm. They don't really sell it in a literal way, as not to keep bringing it up, but like 2001 is almost about like Kubrick just showing off him shooting stuff in space. Like, you are in, orbit in that movie. In this, it's more of like a setting. It's more about the setting to be able to explore ideas than anything else. And the first scene that I thought was really cool was, so there's kind of like 2 parts of this. I think it's even broken up as 2 parts, where he's on Earth and he's preparing to leave, and then his time on the station at Solaris. And in between those, there's this traffic scene that goes on for maybe, I don't know, it's like 5 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I love that scene because it, like, I don't know, there's just like there's something mesmerizing about the way it's shot with the lights, where there are no reds, like white or red lights are the same color. And to me, it was like a metaphor for him traveling through space as well, right? Because at times you don't really actually see a lot of what's going on. We're just watching cars and their lights, but it's also communicating that he's traveling to the space station through space. So it's kind of like Tarkovsky, rather than doing like some campy attempt at shooting stuff to appear in space, he just gives you these scenes that are metaphors for it instead. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I looked up, I think, on the Wikipedia, and they called some of these moments or his style of filmmaking, meditative cinema. And I'd never thought of that phrase before until watching this movie. And I also loved that scene. I mean, it's like 5 minutes of just this traffic. And I loved the idea. I kind of compared this to Tenet, and I think Nolan's name will probably come up a few times before the end of this discussion, but it allowed me to just kind of like sit and think about the movie so far and think about like what's happened. It was almost just like an intermission, but not quite, where you can kind of just sit and see what's going on and think about the scenes that have happened before it. Like, I appreciated that. I liked having that time to marinate on certain ideas and topics, as opposed to things just rushing past me and me missing something entirely. Like, it's just going too fast. Danny, what did you think?
I liked how it looked, but about a minute in, I was over it. I wanted that scene to end. I was bored out of my mind. And I didn't get that was him traveling through space either. So, but it also doesn't change my opinion on that scene.
At this point of the movie, you're not seeing the Kubrick Tarkovsky parallels, yes or no?
I am not at all.
Danny's stature right now looks like I'm one of his kids that just like spilled something on the carpet and he's not happy with me.
Let me loosen up a bit back here. I didn't know. And because at this point it's still not a sci-fi movie to me.
Yeah, you're right. The first half is a lot of them in the cabin, his dad's cabin.
I mean, by the end of it, it's still not a sci-fi movie to me. But
right.
Yeah, at this point we were stuck at his dad's cabin, and then the car scene.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of it is them kind of reviewing footage from the government about the
pissed off government. Yeah, they're ornery.
Their decisions to investigate this sentient ocean planet. And why they haven't made any headway in their investigation, and that eventually he gets called up to do so in the second half of the movie. What about your list, Danny? Do you have any items that you wanted to bring up about Solaris?
I did. I mean, the only things that I wanted to talk about were interesting shots that he did with. I actually thought he shot the wife the best in this film. There were a lot of scenes where I feel like, and this could be me missing the whole point of this movie altogether, but I feel like there's a lot of shots of her that there's a circle around her and behind her. And I was catching that a couple times, and I don't know if it meant anything, but she was backlit a lot, and I don't know. There were some very interesting shots sprinkled throughout this film that I really liked. My problem is every scene was so long, and there were a lot of quiet scenes that really bugged me. And I didn't enjoy the quiet because I was bored, you know? Like if I was engaged more with the story, and I'm just going to also say it now, since we're just now starting talking, it's in Russian and having to read it as well. My the way I work watching film, I can't connect these gorgeous scenes with the conversation and then try to remember the story, and because they talk very quick as well, and the subtitles were fast as well, and it just bugged me a little bit. And like I can do it with Ghibli's and all this kind of stuff, but there's something about this film that I found myself having to pause, go back, not start it over completely, but scenes, and because I felt like I should have been loving it more than I was, but I got bored with a lot of the scenes. There's a lot of quiet, and I kept thinking about the word nothing burger because there were just so many scenes where they just dragged on for a while.
This entire movie, you could probably say, is just one like 90% nothing burger.
I was gonna say Tarkovsky's it's nothing burger cinema,
which I'm kind of into.
I know you are.
Yeah.
I know.
Like
I know you
that
are.
tickles my fancy big time. I'm extremely tickled at the idea of going through.
And the
his
thing is, like, this film
filmography.
came out after 2001, and I don't even think it's fair to compare the two because, I mean, I guess on some level it's about the existence of man, but there's so many boring design choices in this film, and it bugged me. Like, there was so little with sci-fi in this that the sci-fi stuff was boring. I didn't like the hallways. I didn't like the build of the ship. I actually did love the shots of the ocean and Solaris itself. I thought that was really very cool looking. I liked the kind of, in and out takes of those, but I would honestly rather talk with you guys about what you liked than me to continue to drone on about this movie.
Appreciate your honesty.
I think that's probably the weakest part of this movie is that if you come into it expecting sci-fi, you're not really getting it. And the parts that are sci-fi aren't that great. The hallways of the ship, it feels, I don't know, it just seems like either Tarkovsky doesn't care about those things or like there wasn't money to make it look better.
Yeah, maybe that.
So he just kind of avoided it. And it is confusing because the way this is shot, like for people who haven't seen it, like there's one scene, like the birthday party scene where the one character Snout, it's his birthday. And it starts in this room, like this, you haven't seen this room before. And there's a lot of shots where the camera, it looks like it's maybe like 2 feet away from a wall and it just pans through a room. And this room, it looks like a library in somebody's house, but it's actually in the space station. And it's kind of like a wild choice. Like a lot of rooms look like that, where it's like recreated to look like you're on Earth, like in someone's house. And it's pretty wild. Yeah, those scenes, I totally get that. The way I thought of it, I think Nothing Burger scenes is good, but also I thought of it like a lot of it's like visual vignettes where I don't know, like there's scenes where I'm like watching and there's no, like I have no proof that this thing means this thing, but it's just like in my mind, I'm like making these connections. So there's the scene where they're in the library. And they have like this big philosophical conversation. And this is pretty common in the Tarkovsky movies that I've seen so far. And then at one moment, the camera zooms into a painting on the wall and it's just traveling around these paintings. And it's like it's zoomed in super close. So you're seeing maybe like a 4x4 inch square of this painting at a time. And right before that scene starts, it focuses on Hari, his wife. And then you're seeing this painting. And to me, in my mind, I connected it that this was like showing a flashback to her life before on Earth, like when she was alive. But there's really no indication of that. And to me, that happens a lot in this movie where there's no cues. There's just like, you're just given these visuals with no like music or score or anything behind it either. And you're kind of left to like determine why you're seeing this thing yourself. And if you're not like into that, this is going to be a really hard movie to watch.
Seriously. Yeah, in Discord, Forrest wants to know if we're doing a drinking game when one of us says nothing burger. So just FYI, if you're
That's a
drinking
new shirt we gotta
vodka
make.
while watching
Make
this.
nothing burger shirts.
I do want to try to defend, as if I have the authority to do so, Russian design. Like, I liked the design of the ship, even though we saw one hallway, just maybe too much, like that one circular hallway with like the dirt and grime everywhere. Like, I don't know if they only had the money to build like 3 rooms for this entire movie, but that was my least favorite set piece. The other hallway stuff I really enjoyed, and piggybacking on the direction of the movie, I loved the long pan shots, especially when you entered a room with 2 or more characters, and the one character, like, so say the character is on one person and then it pans to the right, and 10 seconds later, the character that was first in the shot is now on the right side of the room, and they just essentially walk behind the camera to then appear on the other side. I love that. That is such a strange decision to make in this film, but it happens maybe 5 or 6 times, and it just felt like it was so cool. I loved it. I haven't seen that in a film before. It was such an interesting choice to show movement or the scope of the room that I just really got a kick out of. So the camera tricks were definitely on my list, but in general, I do want to dig into, his dead ex-wife appearing on this ship as a creation of the sentient ocean. It's kind of like they barrage this sentient ocean with radiation, and it starts doing weird things. Like each person on the ship is having kind of like parts of their memory formed real. Like, you don't really see the other 2 dudes' creations, only in glimpses. In their rooms, they like keep it locked up. But his ex-wife appears, and his first instinct is to ship her off the station in a rocket. Like, he like tricks her into going into a rocket, and he just like sends her out. He's like, "Get the F out of here. You're dead. I shouldn't be seeing you right now."
I love that. Also, right before that, like he gets there and he's talking with Schnaut, and Schnaut says to him, like, "You're going to see things, and if you see things, don't panic or do anything crazy." And Kelvin's like, yeah, sure. And then when he sees his wife, he puts her in a rocket and shoots her out of the station. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And at the onset too, there's a lot of the second half of this movie where you first meet the scientists. They're really strange. They're off-putting. They're not giving him any information. As you find out later, it's because they know he's about to experience something that's going to mess with his head, and they just want him to experience it first. Like, they're like, "Oh yeah, well, let's have a meeting, but maybe let's talk tomorrow, or let's talk tomorrow morning. Come back and see me then." And I really enjoyed the aspect of his wife who committed suicide. She eventually does reappear after he shoots her out of the rocket, and it comes back, and she keeps coming back. Like, she dies a few times, she kills herself, but she keeps coming back. There's especially one scene where, I think she drank like liquid nitrogen or something, and she's dead in the hallway. And then like a minute later, she comes back to life, and it's kind of violently. And just the idea of living on this space station with what is not really your ex-wife, and she keeps coming back. Like, why would you ever want to leave? And like the crux of the movie is him, at least in my interpretation, him not really being emotionally open on Earth, and that kind of caused her to kill herself. And then on this ship, he's able to then have a second chance and give his love to his wife that he wasn't able to. And God, I would never want to leave either. Like, why would I ever want to leave this ship? Like, I can't go back to Earth. I'm going to leave this and go back to the dreary muck of my dad's cabin, and who I presumably also have a bad relationship with.
I love that aspect of this. The argument surrounding this is that, well, Kelvin immediately believes that it is his wife, right? And then there's the other scientist there, I think it's Sartorius, who is pretty much on the opposite end and is like, these aren't real, this is just Solaris making these things. They're not the people that we don't have to treat them as people because they're not. They'll disappear when we disappear. But Kelvin totally believes that they are. And then it's like this whole question of like, well, is it his wife? Like if she has all the memories all the emotions. She feels like he does. When he talks about their past together, she can remember it. And there's this amazing scene where he describes to her how she died, which is like the super weird and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But just that whole concept of like, is this a person? Is this your wife? Because the guest, Hari, who appears on the space station, she totally believes that it's her.
Yeah.
And she has the memories and the emotions to back it up. So why isn't it her? And to me, the concept that this brings up is like this idea of like resurrection, and not to talk about like spiritual or biblical themes every time on the show, but just like this concept that like, what if like this is like heaven where, you're brought back, but you know that you're not the same person that you were on earth. Because that's what's happening here, right? Like she is the person who was on earth, but she's having trouble accepting that as well because she knows she isn't at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just like a mind F that's fun to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of you falling in love with your perception of someone and not that real person was like really in the back quarter of the movie that I really enjoyed. I wrote down a lot of quotes that I liked from this movie, to be honest. Like,
quote them,
especially, kind of forwarding to the end where they had this idea that they're going to use this annihilator to end the apparitions and kind of shoot the ocean again with that, but also his thoughts, Chris Kelvin's thoughts. Like maybe we can revert the signal, send his consciousness and thinking to the ocean, and it'll change things. So many islands start popping up, but also when they use the annihilator, all the apparitions end. And on top of that, Hari talked the scientist into ending her life in the first place, and I think that's why they use this annihilator. So she's gone, and he's kind of left with the decision, like, what do I do now? And there's this one quote. He's just like contemplating what he's going to do now. And he says, the only thing left now is to wait. For what? New miracles, new acquaintances, but I won't be able to give myself over to them fully. Never. Do I have the right to turn down even an imagined possibility of contact with this ocean, which my race has been trying to understand for decades? Should I remain here, among things and objects we both touched, which still bear the memory of our breath? What for? In the hope that she'll return? But I don't harbor this hope. The only thing left for me is to wait. His like contemplation of, do I try to have a second chance at life with this ocean and whatever it means, or do I go back home? I love that his like it was like a speech at the end of the movie, and the other scientist is like, yeah, I think you're going to go back to Earth now, and he like grins like for the first time in the movie. And he's like, oh, am I? And I don't know. There's so many quotes that I really were shocked by. So like my experience watching this movie, I'm like, this is fine. And then towards the last like 30 minutes, I was like, am I falling in love with this movie? What is happening here? Like I actually really enjoyed the slow burn. Like this is the slowest burn movie you could possibly ever watch. And like nothing happens, but just slowly it builds and builds. And I love this guy thinking about starting over with his memories and like having a second chance with his wife, his dad, because at the end of the movie, he goes to the cabin. Like the last shot of the movie is him walking home to the cabin. He sees his dad in there, but something's off. And you are wondering why that is. He like hugs his dad, opens the door. He hugs him emotionally, which he's never done. He like shows the emotion to him, and the camera pans back out, and he's on the island on Solaris. So he has chosen, you would think, to stay on the sentient planet and kind of start over, which I loved. Like, that's amazing. This is I wrote in my notes that like, this is, Chris Nolan could learn a few things from Tarkovsky. Maybe he tried to learn a few things, but like, this is what I wanted kind of like from Interstellar. I didn't like cry during this, but I was just still like this. I found the thesis of this movie very profound that I wasn't expecting. So I don't know. Danny just gasped audibly during that moment, but I don't know how do you felt during that aspect of the movie, Proto?
Yeah, I loved it. I also loved the moment where he has with his mother as well. There's like some dirt on his arm or something, and then his mother appears on the space station, and she washes his arm, and I think she's like referring to him as if he's like a little boy,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell that he's like crying, and. There's like this buildup in this movie where it's like you have to be there to like appreciate this moment. I think that like everything that's gone before it.
Mm-hmm.
I just found it, like you said, just beautiful. The reconciliation with his father at the end, and most of this movie is spent with him and his wife. And there's so many silent moments of them interacting, and I loved all of them. I just love the interaction and the silence and the what's not said between these characters, and you seeking to fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm. There's a few other quotes that I wrote down. We don't want to conquer space at all. We want to expand Earth endlessly. We don't want other worlds. We want a mirror. We see contact and will never achieve it. We are in a foolish position of a man striving for a goal he fears and doesn't want. Man needs man. There's just that kind of realization that, you're seeking something in space that you have right in front of you, and you're just kind of like missing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really need to just kind of refocus what you actually want or need. Kelvin also has a great line, shame the feeling that will save mankind. Like I really wanted to like read the book at this point, like in this movie. I was like, oh shit, like what am I getting into here? Not knowing. So there's another conversation where they're talking about like not knowing one's day of death. And Kelvin's like, not knowing that day makes us practically immortal. And snout, don't turn a scientific problem into a common love story. There's just so many great, like, I'm just like sitting there like nodding, like, that was a good line right there.
Yeah. They have this great conversation about love. I can't really remember what it was, but it was in with the library room between Schnaut and Kelvin. But that was a great.
I think I might
moment
have wrote
too.
that one down too.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, no. He was talking to Harry where he says, "I love you. Love is a feeling we can experience but never explain. One can explain the concept. You love that which you can lose." Yourself, a woman, a homeland. So there's just a lot of great stuff that was just really quotable, and these lines really just came like out of nowhere. Like, nothing happens maybe for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then there's just like this little gem of a line. And I don't think this movie would have worked if it was 90 minutes necessarily. Like I love the kind of meditative state that I mentioned earlier that kind of forces you to just like sit and marinate on what you're seeing. So I'm not sure if it would have worked as a shorter movie. But Danny, you watched the Solaris with Soderbergh. So did it work as a shorter movie?
It works. Well, you haven't seen it, and I don't think Proto has seen it. I don't want to spoil too much of it. It is the exact story. I know they're working off the same book material, but it's funny how many which is making me think that the lines are directly from the books. How much it's similar in the conversation, yes, it works. To me, it worked better as a 90, but it worked better in Solaris 2002 because Solaris is very sci-fi. The design, like it takes the time that like 2001 does to show you the ships, to show you space, to show you the spacesuits. The thing about 2002 that I like Solaris is it does dive a little bit more into the husband and wife relationship on Earth as well as on the ship. And actually his wife is the lady we love from the first on Hulu. She was Natasha. She's the main whatever NASA woman.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so I think it worked great as a 99-minute movie. Just because I feel like it took out a lot of the nothing burger of Tarkovsky's stuff.
How about George Clooney's like bobblehead in that movie? Was he
he did
around?
the like open mouth bobblehead thing, but you see his ass twice, so it kind of makes up for it.
Was it a stunt ass or was it his real ass?
Full Clooney. We got the full Clooney.
Full blossoming Clooney. Rare occasion.
Yeah. So yeah, it worked, and I kind of want to watch the original Solaris movie that was before Tarkovsky's. I think it was in the 60s. To see if I even remotely like that one, but I don't know.
Did you have any relation to the organs in this movie reminding you of Interstellar? I got some Interstellar vibes when I heard the organs.
A little bit, but I didn't care too much for the score in this because it didn't lean heavy on score. I think it wanted to have the silence more than it wanted to have moments filled with noise.
What did you guys think of the use of the different tones? Like when it would go like a sepia tone or like that bluish tone.
All right, I'll go first. There's sometimes when I'm looking at like art, and this is a very I don't know what the word is, snobby thing to say, but there's moments where I feel like someone's just trying
too
hard to be artsy, and I felt like when it would cut to like the blue tone scenes, it was just like, come on. Like I just kind of rolled my eyes. Like, I don't know. It's a boring scene. Let me change the color and, make it somehow interesting. But I don't know.
I'd be curious. Ian has joined chat. I'd be curious. He's a fellow Kubrick boy.
See, I'm still not even thinking in the mindset of comparing this to 2001 still. Cause I just don't think they're comparable. I really don't.
Ian says I've never seen Solaris.
Yeah, when I was thinking about it, I don't think they're really comparable either.
I think they're both like grand stories, but they're just, you have way two different point of views when it comes to.
Yeah, there's really no point in trying to compare them, I think. That use of like the change in color tone, that's Tarkovsky. It seems like he does that in all of his movies. In the other two I watched, he does that as well. I actually heard a quote or something. It said where at first he didn't even like the use of any color in movies. He was like suspicious of using color. But then he learned to like appreciate it and kind of play with it beyond what most people do. Like I'd never seen this in a film before until I started watching his movies. I don't have any thoughts
on the color schemes. I'm too much of an idiot to have any kind of insight into the meaning behind them. So I just kind of let them do their own thing, and I didn't think anything of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't really pick up on anything either. It was just kind of like, whatever.
Some of my other notes, just the idea of a sentient ocean is legit cool to me. I love that idea of a ocean planet that we're investigating from afar. The video calls that they were doing in this movie, whoa, mama.
Yeah.
That was some forward-thinking stuff right there.
When he's playing back like the video journal from the one guy who committed suicide, and that screen looks like it's 70 inches. It's like, dang.
I know. How much he got that on Black Friday for that space station? Cripes. TCL. If you want to sponsor the show, let us know. Long shots of him just walking and doing nothing I thought were pretty gorgeous, especially around the cabin property. A lot of cool shots there. Russian Han Solo, I mentioned. Organs reminding me of Interstellar. And just the quotes that I mentioned in general were some of just my favorite aspects of the movie. Did I read this one? To ask is always the desire to know, yet the preservation of simple human truths require mystery. I'm not sure what Danny's rating is, but I don't think you're alone. Mike Rappin in our Discord gave it 2 stars, saying it was very long. I was bored most of the movie, and the near silent audio was killing me the whole watch. Mikey P gave it 3.5 stars. He liked the first part, but the second part, I don't think nailed it for Mikey P. The whole looking for something when we don't even have contact with ourselves is pretty great. An endless search for other worlds when we haven't fully realized our own. Will Latner, 2-banger for Solaris. Not really my thing. is kind of what he encapsulated. Ben, 4 stars. Most space movies are about reconciling a desire to seek the outer reaches of the universe with a refusal to look inward. Tarkovsky takes this to the extreme by forcing his protagonist to come face to face with a manifestation of his most painful memory. 4 stars. Let's hear Danny's first. Danny, what's your final diagnosis?
I will say there was one other scene that I liked where she can't be when she first is with him and can't be left alone and she busts through the door. I thought that was amazing. I liked that. Other than that, we'll get into it. This movie is very long. To me, there's a lot of it that needed to get cut out. And then the moments were the long panning shots of like him walking around the lake, and it still didn't look good enough to be spending that much time, in my opinion, on those scenes. I didn't like the actors. I thought they weren't that great. I liked the wife. I didn't enjoy the performances. I don't know why we saw some of the things we saw, like the little person running out of the room. I guess that was his apparition that was just being locked away. I didn't enjoy the design of the ship. The absence of a score bothered me, even though I knew that's why he was doing it. It's at this point, this is a 1-star movie for me.
Wow.
And I don't say that as like
garbanzo,
like middle finger to the two of you. This is 1 star. I did enjoy listening to you guys talk about and how much you love it, but it doesn't hit the mark for me on any level.
It's never personal between us.
I know that
when it comes to ratings.
We make our jokes, but this definitely just doesn't. I wanted to like it. HBO day 1. This was on my watch list. We had talked about this forever ago. The movie posters for this are out of this world. Like they're amazing. They don't do this movie justice. I mean, they just oversell this movie, in my opinion.
What other movies have gotten a 1 star from you on this show? Is this the first ever 1-star garbanzo?
X-Ray got 1 star, right?
Did I give X-Ray 1 star?
My last pick.
We need to collect the averages of Danny's rating for Proto picks and see what that comes to.
What is the Venn diagram?
Birth, Mikey P says in chat.
No. Yeah.
It might have been 1 star.
Anyway, there you go.
We appreciate your bravery. I am going to give this 4.5 stars. I was not expecting the different cinema experience of this movie, to be honest. Now that I'm aware of kind of the style, I'm more interested in his other works. Like I was interested in Stalker just because of the cinematography, the photographs that I saw of that movie. It looks insane. So now I'm kind of even more excited. I think there's a place for movie watching, and it's not for everyone. There's a place for me to have these kind of like slow, meditative films. It's not often, probably, I'll admit. Like I'm not going to sit and watch like 30 of these in a row. I have to be in the mood. But by the time this movie was over, I was totally like won over by it, by the whole experience. It wasn't like the halfway point I was thinking I love this movie. It was at the very end where it just kind of like built up, and I really loved what I experienced. Definitely not for everyone, as you can see by Danny's rating and the reviews that I read. So enter cautiously is my opinion. This isn't a movie I'd ever watch with my wife. I'll say that much. Proto, what about you?
Yeah, I would say this movie is a chore. It takes a lot to watch it, and it's not a movie that you could watch repeatedly. You know, you're not just going to throw this on. It's a lot of work to get through it, and it's not for everybody. Like this, for me, this is a 5-star movie.
Oh,
but it's clearly not for everyone. I don't think I'd recommend anybody watch this movie. Like I wouldn't know who to recommend this movie to. Like I would really need to know what you like to recommend this, because there's so much that's difficult to I'd recommend it to Ian.
In chat, everyone's freaking out right now.
Yeah, Ian's saying. So there's like similar things in this to Stalker for sure, But the things I didn't like about Stalker is the meandering. There's a lot of like nothing burger scenes. There's a ton of philosophical talk, even I would say like 3 times as much than this. And for whatever reason in this movie, it worked. I think the fact that there was like just this, the setting and the themes and the space station with this concept, I just love it. To me, this is a top tier story. This is like, I don't know. It's hard to find a better science fiction story in my mind that allows you to look at like the human, the human experience. Like this, it's just so profound and so thought provoking. Like I couldn't get enough of it. And of course, I picked this because I know it's science fiction, and I love space movies. I love science fiction. I love all of this. So, watching it, a little bummed that there isn't actually that much of it. Honestly, this could have taken place inside of a house on Earth and just said like the house is creating your, it could have been like a ghost story. Right. Really. It doesn't have to be on a space station.
The Conjuring 4.
Exactly. Conjuring 4 could have been. But I loved it. It just worked on every level. All the slow stuff, the quiet moments, the meditative scenes. I loved it.
This might be, has there ever been a gap between one host rating and another host rating?
Well, and
in show
other
history,
hosts rating.
in history. It's never happened. That is Solaris. Take that into account if you're thinking about firing up HBO Max on a slow, rainy Saturday afternoon and your spouse is out of the house. Because, we're just trying to help out. Next week, as we mentioned earlier, before we get into some 2 letters, Young Guns, Emilio Estevez, The Rest. Classic movie, Wild West. A lot of people love the Wild West. We're going to Young Guns. Classic movie. It's streaming on Prime for free with ads. So be sure to watch that before we record next week. We also have, you can write us a letter 70mmpod@gmail.com, or you can drop us a voicemail if you're so inclined, 267-409-6983. And we have some letters from Tim Hamilton. Tim, I think, is a transplant from the Bat and Spider podcast, which were our lovely guests last week. Tim says, I'm new here. Transplant from the Bat and Spider pod. Great combo surrounding Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I watch this movie almost every Halloween. There are yet more remakes of it. One in 93 and one in 2007, but never saw them. I'm late with this email, huh? Glad to stumble upon your podcast. Before we comment, he's got one more thought. Really enjoyed the crossover with Bat and Spider. You guys gel or smush together in a pleasing way. I did see The Fly in theaters. Yes, we were all grossed out. Young people who thought it was super cool. Later. That's Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Tim O'Thief, who is not this Tim, shared a link to a deleted scene from The Fly where Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, tell me about it, because I did not click on it.
He grows like I don't know what there's probably a technical term for like a fly arm. It like starts. It's like a fly chicken wing arm starts growing out of his chest, and he rips it out of himself. He starts gnawing at his open gash.
Whoa!
What?
Yeah. Well, he also merged 2 animals together, and it didn't go so well. He had to kill the animal.
How much do I hate Cronenberg right now?
What a night for Danny.
No puck luck for Danny tonight.
Back-to-back Cronenberg, Tarkovsky.
Oh, gosh. Before we go, I did ask a question on IG to find out what people were watching this week. Lex says Dracula 92 and hopefully Friday the 13th Part 4.
Yeah.
Dracula 92. Is that the Gary Oldman one?
Dracula 92?
With that sick
Sounds
suit
right.
he's got? Oh, my God. As far as says, Danny, hack Cronenberg, but Kitty Gore is all right. That's a good point. That's a real good point. Let's see. Who do we got here? Corey on IG says he's watching Prisoners. Shout out to Odd. Xavier says, really want to see the Russian film Come and See.
Proto saw that. Proto saw that.
I did see that.
Can confirm.
Russian boys.
Are we being infiltrated ahead of the election here? Is that what this whole thing was? I got to report you. Brad says Army of Darkness and the original Toon Hobbit and LOTR plus heavy metal.
Wow.
Remember when I offered to dig in to the J.R.R. Tolkien verse and watch those animated movies, and you could have. It was like I farted in someone's face. It got shot down so fast.
I was down for that. Slim, you pick it, I'll watch it.
You pick it, I'll watch it.
Forrest just brought up the Sisterhood of the Traveling Possession Blu-ray. And I was just going to mention that. That's on my watch list because it did arrive in the mail. I have it in my possession and it's all ready. Just got to find a quiet night when the family's asleep, you know?
Yeah, I'm excited for that. How about USPS delivering that real quick from my local office to your home? Logistics. They got it nailed. Done. They got it nailed. Chuck Forsman watching Halloween 1 and 2. The Wolf of Snow Hollow, Young Pizza God says. The Wolf of Snow Hollow has been on my list. I know Danny's going to bash me for having more than 10 movies on my watch list, but it's been on my list. Andy Orlandi says, I'm going to try and finish the second Borat movie. Good luck. A lot of negative vibes over here about that movie, Andy.
You hate it. Negative vibes.
Clay says Vampire's Kiss. Never seen that one. And Catcher, frequent guest on the aforementioned show, double team with Van Damme and Dennis Rodman. Gosh.
Ooh.
I need to think about adding a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie to my choices.
Vampire's Kiss sounds like something Mikey P would Google after he Googles young buns.
Fun fact, Mikey P is now in prison after that Google search. So we'll get visitation rights over to him ASAP. So that's this episode. What a show. I'm very excited about that Solaris discussion. Hopefully people give it a shot. Next week, Young Guns, streaming for free thanks to IMDb TV, whatever the heck that is. Proto, any closing thoughts as we wrap up this week?
Yeah, one closing thought. Our lives, they're made up of memories from our past. That's what we carry with us. And I hope yours are full of joy and love.
I need to get that on a Christmas card.
I'm available. Hallmark.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks, all of our friends in Discord for listening along live. We'll see everybody next week. '70mm is a VHS Village production and produced by Dale_A, sponsored by Half Double Design. Original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance provided by Protolexis. This episode was mixed and edited by me, Slim. You can support our Patreon for early access to episodes, discounts on prints, a physical membership card mailed to you, and receive an invite to our Discord to talk movies with other villagers. Special thanks to the good people at Letterboxd, and for a chance to win a pro Letterboxd account, share the show and tag us on social media at 70mmPod. Goodbye.